Welcome to our podcast, Creating a Successful Business Model. Our podcast today is sponsored by the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence. I'm very excited about our podcast today because we have some of the industry's top performing shops I've had the pleasure to work with in the last 6 years or so. These people have really been able to create a future for themselves and greatly improve their businesses, and therefore I think move the industry forward. On our panel today, we have Brian Sump, Avalon MotoSports and Urban Auto Care. Brian is not your typical shop owner. He's a former professional athlete. Brian played football for a few years. Brian had never turned a wrench in his shop before starting Denver-based Avalon MotoSports in 2007. But in the years since, he's used his business acumen and a detailed process-based management philosophy to grow the German specialty shop into an industry leader in 2014. Brian, weren't you a top motor-age shop?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Yeah, it was 14. That was shortly before they did away with it, I think.
Okay. And Brian opened up Urban Auto Care in 2014, his second facility in Denver, to cater to general repair market. And he now leads 6 different organizations. So Brian's kind of branched out away from automotive repair, and he's doing other things. We'll probably talk about that. Brian has been recognized with multiple industry and business awards and was the cover subject of Ratchet Rent's very first issue in July of 2012. We have, hi, Brian.
Hi, good morning.
We have Brian Jesko. Brian's been a technician since 1991 after graduating with an associate degree in automotive technology from Texas State Technical College. He became the owner and lead technician of Trinity Auto Haus in May of 2011, and then with some coaching, started his transition to being the true owner in December of 2015. With a little help from his friends, he's been successful in hanging up his tools and is currently spending his time working on the business instead of in the business, and finding time to enjoy with his family, which he had not had in the past. Welcome, Brian.
Good morning.
And Mr. Tom Lambert, recently married, October 2016. Congratulations once again to his best friend, Cindy. They have 4 children ranging from ages 14 to 21, 2 boys and 2 girls. Both boys are working in our awesome industry. 16-year-old is apprenticing at Tom's shop. The 19-year-old is working at Tom's father's shop, and the 14-year-old daughter often helps out with in both shops. Tom's father started Shade Tree when he was 14 years old. When Tom was 14 years old, Tom worked for him since day one, and he began to manage Shade Tree when he was 18 years old. He became a business partner and owner, both of the property and the business, when he was 25, and Tom is now 37, has purchased the business and the property this year. Congratulations, Tom. I know that was a goal of yours. Tom is a sole owner. He's profitable, happy, and financially stable. 2018 total sales will be $2.9 million. And he says he'd be lying if he really wasn't trying to stretch that to $3 million and achieve a little extra. So welcome also, Tom.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, so our discussion today is around creating a successful business model. I believe there are multiple different business models in the industry that would create success in my shop. And so I'd like to divide it up into about 3 different topics and just ask some questions. And I think the first question that I'd like to ask is, there are some shops that they try to be everything to everybody. Is that possible? Is it possible to be the yes shop, to be the least expensive, to be the best product all at the same time? Or is that pie in the sky?
I don't think there's any way that you could be everything to everybody. I mean, you're going to end up stretching your staff thin. You're going to be thin, and you're going to have a lot of unhappy customers. There's no way. You've got so many avenues that you can go. You need to pick what you're going to be and stand by it, and you will end up with the best customer you could ever have.
Okay. Tom, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I definitely spent plenty of my years trying to be everything to everybody, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. what you end up doing, trying to please, or not necessarily just please everybody, but to be everything to everybody, is you end up doing an okay job of many things instead of a really good job of a couple things you're best at. So yeah, we've over the past 3 or 4 years, we've definitely moved from trying to be the best, the fastest, and the cheapest all in one to just treating our customers the best and letting the rest of the stuff work itself out in the wash.
Okay. Brian Sump, you sometimes have a different opinion, which is one of the things I like because we get to argue a bit. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if the question's if you can please everybody, the answer is clearly no. I mean, you can't exceed every single customer's expectations. But I do believe there's a philosophy of trying to take elements of all things and figuring out, how to integrate pieces of those in every facet of your operation. In other words, every process. But I mean, I know what the question is, and no, you can't please every single customer, but I think there's always, in a true entrepreneur's mind, there's always an evaluation of what you think your clients want, or the clients that are dissatisfied, what did they want, and to figure out if there's ways to integrate elements of those. But ultimately, no. I mean, I think Tom said it very well. I mean, what is the triangle? Speed, quality, and price. Generally speaking, you have to pick 2 of the 3, but there's always an element of subjectivity. In price, you may be less than somebody, more than a lot of people. It might take you 2 days where it might take somebody else 3 days. So you're faster than somebody, but slower than most. So there's always an element of subjectivity, but no, you can't please everybody.
In my consulting company over the years, I've been doing this now consulting wise about 15 years. Most all of the clients that I see that are most successful have higher labor rates. They're probably a more expensive shop than, say, the average shop in town. Do you think that's because of the group of people that I cater my business to, or do you think that that's because I see those as more successful financially and I think better run business? Do you think that's because that's a better business model, or is there some tie-in maybe to that? Why don't we start with Tom on that question?
Oh gosh, so labor rates, so obviously I'm honestly one of the higher labor rates in my area. My prices are higher than most, lower than some. I'm less than the dealer, but in most cases, but higher than some of the complete shops around me. To me, having a higher labor rate is, obviously you don't want to just base your business off of profit, but honestly, a lot of things in my business do revolve around my profit. I have to be profitable in order to do the things I need to do to take care of my staff, my customers, and myself. We all 3 have to win. And I know when I used to, before I met you, when I used to try to keep my labor rate less than everybody, money would get tight, and I wasn't able to take care of people the way I'd really like to take care of them. Now that my rates are where I feel is a fair balance for both myself and my customers, the profits are there to where I can run just a good, successful, steady business. And then there's enough money left over to where I can do the right thing. We got a 3-year, 100,000-mile warranty, no questions asked. And honestly, I warranty a lot of stuff that shouldn't necessarily been warranted, that back in my younger years when money was really tight and I was up against a decision, I a lot of times would lean towards making the wrong decision based on just flat out not having enough money in the bank to do the right thing. So for me, labor rates being high, keeping it, or not being high, but being a little bit higher than local competitors, keeping profits a few percent higher than the industry norm, plays a big part in me being able to take care of people the way I like to. So.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Brian Sump, Mr. S. What are your thoughts about that?
I personally feel like labor rate's one of the least felt things by our customers. I think most general repair shops average about 2 to 2.5 hours per ticket, and most European shops are somewhere between 3 and 4. And when you fluctuate $10 over 2 or 3 hours, I mean, $20 to $40 is really hard to fill. Now, I think we should probably discuss when we're talking about your actual labor rate, what comes in at the end of the month based on your labor dollars divided by your paid hours to your technicians. That's really what customers feel. You can post 150 and end up at 90, and your customers will fill 90. So my opinion is that there's a lot of different things you can do with labor rate as well. What is the customer mostly going to feel in labor? They're going to, or compare, they're going to take oil services, diagnostic, labor charges. These are the most common services that they would most commonly compare. So there's some cool things you can do where you can lower those, and you run a bell curve or a matrix and really make it back up on the third, fourth, and fifth hours, and get some of that effective labor rate back. But at the end of the day, I think it's harder to fill labor pressure. In other words, customer perception of labor prices is not a huge issue. And I mean, a $10 or $15 fluctuation from another shop in labor rate doesn't really do a lot unless you're really running heavy on what you charge for oil services, diagnostic labor, and basic maintenances, maybe brake labor. Those are the things that people can compare most easily and might feel the effects of a higher labor rate on.
Okay. So just a follow-up question on that. Do you run a lower rate on those items to stay more competitive and then raise other places? Is that what you're doing primarily?
We do run matrices and labor in both stores. And so it's sort of a bell curve. The bottom end, is very aggressive. 2 through 6 hours really ramps up high. I guess I should go this way for the audience. And then after 6 hours, it starts to trail off again. So it's very aggressive. 2 through 6 hours really ramps up high. I guess I should go this way for the audience. And then after 6 hours, it starts to trail off again. So it's very aggressive. 2 through
Sorry,
6 hours.
somehow
really
my
ramps
sound
up
is
high. I guess I should
wigging
go
out
this way
again.
for the audience.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian. Other Brian, Mr. Jesco.
Yeah.
I guess I need to not have two Brians on the same show next time. But Mr. Jesco, what do you think about labor pricing and how that affects your business? And why did you choose what you chose?
Because I'm a tech gone owner, we don't think business wise first. We think technician first. And so our instinct is you call around to see what everybody else is charging. And then you want to charge, less than somebody else because you think that's what's going to bring customers in. And then really until you realize that you're not a technician anymore, you're an owner operator, and start seeking out the information to get you where you need to be and finding a good coach to tell you, hey, you need to worry about the end, not the beginning. You need to know what money's going to be left over so you can pay your bills. You can't base everything off of what everybody else does. You've got to base it off of the numbers that you have in your facility. We forget that we need to have an income to build our business and to keep moving forward, and to have the money to also train the technicians as well as ourselves. We need training to make sure we're doing the right thing for the automotive field. Are we making automotive repairs better on both ends, on the repair side and the management side? That we need to strive to make it the best that it can be, and try to help people understand that this is a great field to go into. We need young people that want to be technicians, but we also need good people that want to run great shops. And seeking training and learning how your labor rate affects everything is the most important thing you can do.
Okay. So you're concerned with being able to have the money that you need to not only pay your bills, but also to take care of staff and attract new people into your company. Sounds like.
Yeah, these guys work hard. They work hard in the shop, and they deserve to earn a good wage. They need to be paid well to take care of their family. We shouldn't all be struggling because of decisions that I don't make right in the beginning.
Okay. Let's talk about modeling our business. What model did you choose, and why did you make that choice? And last but not least, would you do something different if you started again and you said, I want to go backwards in time? And we'll start with Brian Sump here.
Model, and for the sake of explanation of model, we're talking about, can you define that a little bit?
There's a choice that's made at some point of the type of business that you're going to run and the kind of customer that you're going to try to attract. At least hopefully there's a choice made. And then your marketing and your deliverables, what you do with clients, how you do it, even maybe how your shop looks is designed to attract with different models, discount model. I'm going to run a lot of coupons. I don't need the place to look super nice. I don't have to have the best technicians. I can use C technicians or whatever to do the basic stuff. What I would call a relationship model. We're going to be the best shop in town. We're not going to be cheap. We're maybe not the highest price, but we're towards the higher end of that. Tire store. Do you supply tires? Do you market tires? Smog shop. Are you doing smogs, not doing smogs? What's the advantages or not of those types of things? So I think it's some choice. You said, this is the kind of business I want to have. At least I hope you did. And then you try to design your business to deliver those things to your customers. That's probably the definition that I would use.
Okay. Well, when we started 11 years ago, we kind of started a store and adapted. We kind of became a little bit of what we had in our mind to become, but also where the market would support a business that we wanted to have. So that looking from that perspective, we started a European, specifically a German specialty shop 11 years ago. And I think inherently when you have that kind of clientele, and you can have the same kind of clientele in a general repair shop in a very high income or very high corporate area. But with German imports, are you going to have a clientele that has a little bit higher needs? That might be a very nice service facility, right, where they're very comfortable and it's something that would be in a dealership. They might want their car washed. They might expect loaner cars, things like that. So in that sense, we have a high value model. Our second store is also high value, but it doesn't come with as many of the sort of frills as our European store does. And I think that's partly because it's kind of socked in. I mean, there's not a lot of competition. Not to say we can take advantage of customers, but we treat people really well. We provide an excellent warranty. We use some Uber and Lyft to transport them back and forth. And so our costs of doing business are lower, but people come to us because we're close and because we treat them really well and execute the repairs. So if we had 10 other shops right around us, we might have to change that model a little bit. But at the end of the day, we're probably upper 25% of the market as far as price point. We have an extended warranty, and it looks and feels different than most automotive shops or garages.
Okay. Would you change? You said initially it started kind of organically. You wanted to work on German cars. Was there a point in time where you said, okay, this is who we really want to be, or has it just kind of morphed itself?
Well, I've always had a passion for German cars, so I kind of followed a passion. But from a business perspective, if we're actually growing and we're looking to add more shops, we're not going to add German import shops. To me, the comparison is it takes a lot more effort and more silver platter treatment to run a European shop, at least from my standards and from the kind of clients we have. So our growth is really going to be in the general repair side, finding neighborhood shops or high traffic shops that we can differentiate based on those parameters I talked about before. And it takes a lot less resources, and you get a little bit more forgiveness and grace, I think, in that setting than you do in a really high-end specialty shop. So if you're going to run one store, that's an extension of me and my taste is the European store. But if I'm going to grow businesses and really spread my reach, then I'm going to take lower barriers to, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to take the path that's probably most simple and easier to grow, which would be general repair for us.
And so you feel that for you at this time, a general repair shop is an easier way to grow.
Yeah, and I think my staff that's been doing it with me a long time would agree with that.
Okay. Other Brian, Mr. Jesko, did you create a model? Did you just decide at some point that this is who you want to be? And if you did, what is that?
Well, when I started out here, I would say we fell in a discount / relationship model. More probably people were friendly with us because of the discount that we were giving them and how low priced we were. And that's really the clientele we started building were the people that didn't have the money to spend on their car. I'm an all makes all model shop. And what it ended up doing was my higher end customers ended up getting to where they did not want to do business with me because there were so many of the other customers around that I didn't have time to work on their cars the way I had in the past. And, you know, it goes back to not knowing what you're doing and not having that training. I didn't realize what was happening until I started quizzing the customers that I was losing. And then once again, seeking out a consultant to help me out and understand the way the trend works. I had to start transitioning into a relationship only and realize that I can't cater to everybody and I'm not here to save everybody. I mean, I need to pick a customer that wants to take care of their car, wants to own their car for 300,000 miles and understands that I'm the one here to help you keep that car going. And I'm going to ask you to spend some money on maintenance and repairs. And that's okay. And they're going to be okay to do that. But when I had started out and looking mainly at the discount side of it, I was doing more damage than good.
Okay. Everyone here has probably lost some customers. Tom, I still want to ask you the business question, but I think if you've lost some customers or you let them go or they left you because you were no longer what they wanted when you made whatever change you made, is that okay? You know, how do you not make that happen? Can you not make that happen? You know, is it good or bad? Tom.
Yeah, so I've definitely lost some customers, and obviously not ideal. You know, we run a business that 90% of our customers are repeat customers. So obviously we're big on pleasing the people that come in. If somebody comes and meets me one time, I almost take it as an insult if I don't service their car forever. You know, but I would say the biggest number of customers I lost in, say, the past 3 years as I've been kind of transitioning to a little different feel in my shop is I don't take waiting appointments. So I lost a good amount of customers due to that. No, not necessarily lost them, but that was probably the biggest argument or biggest time spent explaining to my customers why I don't take waiting appointments. We got a very specific process that we go through that waiting appointments just don't work out for anybody involved. So that would probably be that's what comes to my mind is what I've changed to lose some customers. And I've lost some decent ones over it, honestly, but at the same time, my business is so much better for everybody else that I didn't lose that it's a risk that was worth taking. So.
Okay, Brian, what about you? Did you lose some customers? Does it matter?
Jesco, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I did. You know, in the end, changing to a better shop, I've lost those lower customers that you don't want to keep. You know, I had such a high car count that I was trying to push cars through the shop, push them in the front, and they were squeezing out the back. And we weren't looking the car over. We weren't finding the stuff that was the potential the next week down the road. So we were fixing today to fix again next week. You know, and getting rid of those that bottom quarter that we had we spent a lot of time with, did not make much money on, then they did not want to do any repairs or maintenance. It was a good thing to eliminate that and focus more on the top 10%.
But a lot of shops don't want to lose anybody, and it's painful for them to lose even one customer. Brian Sump, thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you're going from a certain model per your verbiage earlier to a different model and changing things that your customer is going to be able to feel. Again, I mean, if you were at an $85 labor rate, you're jumping to 120 or something, that's pretty drastic. If you're firing customers because you don't want to deal with it anymore, you're going to feel that, I mean, to some degree. But I don't know. I mean, I think your customers come to you. I mean, the reasons people go to shops has really not changed that much over 10 or 20 years. Maybe you would agree. I mean, ultimately, trust is a huge factor. Convenience is a huge factor. And when you sample your customers, a lot of them would say price is lower down the list. So it depends on what change you're making. Now, I will tell you, one of the things that I've learned through the years is that the type of shop that you're set up to be should play into your decisions. For instance, if you have a 3-bay shop, we do have one that's tracking to hit about 1.1 this year, and it's high efficiency, and you've got to be very deliberate, and you're trying to increase your average ticket because you don't have bays to fill. That's a philosophy that you need to consider in your marketing plan. If you've got 15 days and you've got a $10,000 a month rent payment and you're only filling 8 bays, and then you've got to think about strategically adjusting your model a little bit if you can't outrun your nut. So yeah, I think customers feel certain things. Hopefully the changes we're making are improvements, such as improving the customer experience, remodeling some things, and learning to be able to be okay with certain customers that aren't the right fit for you and saying no to them without saying no. But so that's my thoughts on it. I mean, yeah, you're going to lose maybe a few customers to become better. But like if you're a guy like Tom doing 2.9 million in one store, I presume, right, Tom? One location. He's figured out a way to get a really good market share. And, he's probably lost a few to get a lot, and he probably made really wise choices. And I'm sure Brian Jesko has done some of the same.
All right. So let's if you had to start over and you knew what you know now, what would you do differently? What would be the 1 or 2 things that you might do differently, earlier, sooner, different, whatever? Let's start with Brian Jesko.
I would clean up the shop and make it look more organized and appealing to people to walk through and see. I would not go after the discount customer. I would set my labor rate higher. I would get my parts margin better, and I would up my warranty, have a loaner car. I would change a lot. I mean, knowing now, had I known it then, things would be a lot different. I've never been in a bad situation. So knock on wood, I've had it good, but it could have been much better in the beginning had I not made the mistakes that I made.
Tom, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, yeah. So if I could have done it all over, would have been totally backwards of the way I did it, starting out in the industry at 14 and starting to manage at 18. I had no knowledge to be doing that. I had a dad that's a very smart guy and really knows how to work, knows how to outwork everybody. So he instilled that in me. I've got common sense, and I knew how to work harder than everybody, but worked very dumb for about 2 decades. So if I had to start over, honestly, I would have actually had a plan first and then executed the plan. I did the opposite. I spent almost 2 decades working harder than anybody should have to work, and then found out there's actually classes and coaches out there that can teach you the way you should be doing it. So for me, obviously, I would have sat in a lot of classes. I would have hired a coach, and I would have had a very defined business plan to start out rather than fumbling through and struggling for a long time, and then realizing that there was a way to do it 100 times easier. So.
Okay. Brian Sump, what are your comments there? Same question.
Tom said it pretty well, actually, in a couple aspects. I mean, there's always that you don't know what you don't know element of business, really anything. I mean, you jump off a cliff, most of us, you jump off a cliff and then you kind of learn the hard way sometimes. And sometimes you get lucky and you surround yourself with people that have made mistakes so that they can advise you. I think one of the things that we do, I have several other businesses now, and one of the first things we do is consult with somebody that knows the industry. They can teach us. And I mean, it might cost you a few $1,000s, but that just goes into your business plan, and it's a cost that you expect to have. And I mean, that's going to help you. Your trajectory is going to be a lot steeper than if you wouldn't have done that. So you've got to consult people. You've got to learn, specifically to automotive. I mean, on one hand, I would say I wouldn't allow myself to be held captive by team members. And it's hard because you don't know, again, you don't know always what it's going to look like. And you don't know what your ideal employee looks like until you've had several employees. We're blessed to have, the first employee I ever hired is still with me, and he's a model partner. He's been with me almost 11 years, and I was very blessed in that. But some that had for years really took advantage of us, and I think hurt our company. So, I mean, just if you know that somebody's not the right fit, try to get the right fit in and just learn who the right fit is as you go. I would also study more demographics around a shop. If I was going to open a store, I would try to look at the availability of the size of the store. And I would be more strategic about how I approached it rather than just taking one person's model or suggestion and saying, this is the way you need to run your business. I mean, it really looks different for a lot of us based on the part of the country we're in, the demographics around our store, the availability of cars and staff and all that stuff kind of goes into the picture. So it would be nice to have known that at the beginning, per Tom's point, but I would apply that knowledge moving forward.
From the coaching and consulting end, I hear all the time, all the reasons why I'm not able to be successful. So, you hear, you don't understand, Cecil, I'm in Seattle and it rains too much, or I'm here and there's this, or I'm there and there's that. There's always a reasonable excuse to be had about why you can't do what you ought to do. How is that legitimate? I mean, in my world, I've seen 3 businesses in my entire lifetime where the excuse was a legitimate excuse that the business was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. For most everyone else, I haven't experienced that. Go ahead. Start with Brian Jesco.
I think for me, I can only speak for me. The only thing that's holding me back is me. And I realized that from the beginning. I can come up with any excuse I want to, but that's not going to solve the problem. I mean, I've got to find the solution and fix the problem, or admit that there's not a problem there. And I think for the most part, there's not a problem there. There's every time, if I sit in my office and watch the cars go by, there's cars going by all the time. There's plenty of cars out there. There's nothing holding us back except for us.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Brian Sump, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I don't know if I think a lot of what we said and just specifically your question as far as that in other words, is there always a solution or not? I think is another way to ask that question. As you grow in business, and if you like, I build other businesses and I've learned things about different industries, and I tend to believe there's always an answer. You can pivot, you can adjust, you can do a 180. I mean, you can change things in your business. Now we have one store that's increasing car count, increasing ARO. We have another store that's decreasing car count, increasing ARO. And we've had a challenge about figuring out why. I believe there's a solution. We've been at it for 3 years trying to really dig into it. There's really, like you said, probably 99% of the time, there is a solution or a myriad of solutions that can solve the issue. It's just a lot of us don't have the resources or capacity to know what it is. A lot of times you got to trial and error. You got to meet with a consultant or a coach that can help you sort through that stuff. Most of the time, you can make adjustments to become profitable. I believe in almost any business.
Okay. Otherwise, why be in business, right? I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Tom, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm right here in Davis County, Utah. We're known as the coupon cutter capital, you know. So many people could say that I can't charge what you guys, you know, the Bryans charge where you guys are at. I actually hear that from most of the shop owners I network with around here is, gosh, how are you holding margins? I get people just beating me up all day. So yeah, I believe that, you know, everything I've been coached, I would say 90% of it pertains to everybody. And then there's about a 10% variance based off of not necessarily where you're at, but who you are, you know. But I think everybody, for the most part, can fail and succeed for very similar reasons in our industry. So it's all up to us. So.
Does average repair order matter? I mean, you know, when we talk about business models, there's the discount model where we kind of expect to have a lower average repair order, more car count, etc. Brian Sump, you talked about, well, I've got 15 bays I need to fill. Does average repair order come into play here? Does it matter? Is it something we should be focused on? Brian Sump.
Yeah, it's funny because I was reading this question a couple of days ago as you sent it out, and it's funny because it's kind of a semantics thing. Does average repair order matter? 100% it matters. Now, when you say that, most people think average repair order versus car count, that you're either going to be a high ARO and low car count, or if you're a car count shop, you're a low ARO and high car count. But from a business perspective, it totally matters. Now, what's fascinating is that I've been around the country and visited a lot of stores, and I can think of 3 or 4 stores right now that are $4 to $6 million single location stores. And one of them has like a 45% gross profit margin. And 2 or 3 of the other ones have like an $89 an hour labor rate. But what's crazy is they outrun their nuts so far. I mean, the $5 or $6 million stores are making $1 million a year. Owner take home, and they're doing it with a low labor rate, and they're doing it with higher car counts, and they've got really big stores.
But I think you said something that's really important here, and that is, in order to do it that way, I have to greatly outrun my nut. Otherwise, I don't make any profit, and I work really hard.
That's an argument that, and I've gotten away, if you guys have been a ratchet and wrench and heard me talk or anything like that, I mean, I get away from saying that my way is the highway. I'm very careful about saying there's one way to do things. But outrunning your nut, I mean, listen, Tom, I'm sure you have a really nice bottom line. I'm sure I can just guess based on being a $2.9 million shop that's been well coached. So, you know, one might say, why would I have multiple stores at $1 million when I can have one store at 3 or 4? Because of that argument about outrunning your nut and making high profit. But there, again, going back to the models thing, average repair order matters. Again, we have a store that we have more cars. We have too many cars. We only have 3 bays. So we have to figure out a way to get that ARO up. And it's uncomfortable sometimes, you know, saying no to people in different ways. But that's the only way we're going to maximize that model. And so again, if we had a larger store, we'd have to figure out a way to get more cars in the bay, which may or may not mean that our average ticket comes down. But there is, and those of you who are listening that know how to do this kind of stuff and model it out, it's like a supply and demand curve. There are points in time where a little bit lower ARO and a lot more cars is going to make you more money. So you just got to work through that.
Oh, I hate to hear that. Don't say that.
For the most part, less expenses, higher ARO, less people, less expenses, less marketing means less overhead and can mean a big bottom line. So I do agree from that perspective.
Okay. Tom, what are your thoughts on ARO?
Yeah, so ARO, very important to us. I don't talk about it a lot just because from a customer's perspective, you start talking about how, we've got to maintain an $800 ARO. It's tough. I don't have enough time right now to explain that to customers. It takes me quite a while to explain what ARO is and why $800 or higher is what our goal is. But it just ties into your goal setting. If you've got a $2.9 million goal like we do for next year, we know that we're going to do about $850 ARO, and about 14 cars a day is how we get that number. Now, I'm not saying that number is correct for everybody, but that's just the kind of work that we like to do and the kind of work that my technicians are the best at. That tends to be about the car count and ARO that works out for my shop.
So Tom, I think there might be some people listening that are saying, wait a minute, because you're selling people $800. Are you selling them stuff they don't need? I mean, oh my gosh, cars don't need $800 worth of work. So is this just about doing 800 because you need 800, or, what's the thought process on that?
Yeah, so exactly why it's tough to explain to customers. So it's really based off of the kind of work I bring in. So Mr. Customer calls me, needs an oil service, needs it done today or tomorrow. I only take a very small amount of small services because we're a shop that thrives on the bigger repairs. So obviously you bring me a vehicle for an oil service, that's a $50 to $150 transaction. That's way less than $850. But then the next guy that is on the schedule is bringing a Subaru to me for $3,200 for the head gaskets. You average those two repairs out, then that's how you get your average repair order. So average repair order to me, the reason why, or the way that we maintain such a high one is controlling our schedule. We try to take care of our customers completely. So we do everything from your oil service up to repairing the wiring harness that a mouse got in there and ate. We just try to balance out our day to where we keep our technicians very productive so that we can get through the small stuff and the big stuff, where when it's all at the end of the day, it averages out. Next year, we'll average out to about $850 per transaction. If you take all the big stuff, mix it with all the small stuff, that's where we end up.
I think I'd like to just make really clear that my belief and my history in the industry, 38 years now, is that if we do a good inspection on the car, typical car that comes in, it's going to have enough work on it that if we sell that work to a client and we sell the majority, more than 50%, to that client, then we're going to maintain a fairly high average repair order. Now, there may be some reasons why customers don't do the work, or we don't have the facility to do the work today, which will bring our average repair order down. But we don't sell people things they don't need, period. And I just want everyone to know out there that not only do I know that all three of these guys that are on Facebook with me today are extremely honest people, but we teach that honesty. We all four of us would be very upset if we found out someone in our business wasn't being honest and wasn't being trustworthy. So I just want to make that comment when we start talking about average repair order and inspecting cars and that kind of thing. One more, and then we're going to make a shift here. Brian Jesko, does average repair order matter to your company?
It matters a lot, and I kind of want to take it from a different point of view. If I was the technician, the more cars that I have to rack during a day are more possible mistakes that I could make in a day. So as being a technician, if I could get my hours off of 3 cars instead of getting my hours off of 6 cars, at the end of the day, I'm going to feel like I'm more successful and I have less chance of something maybe small that I miss. From a customer's point of view, I feel like if my guys don't look the car over and actually have a good view of the car, the information that we're giving the customer, I don't want to say that we're withholding information from the customer. They deserve to know to make the correct decision for their car. So if their car has a lot of problems, we need to be honest with them and say, hey, here's a list of the items that need to be taken care of on your car. If the decision they need to make is that they need to replace that car, that could be the right decision, because say we fix a $300 problem today and next month the engine or the transmission fails because of other issues that we didn't address at the time, that becomes a $3,000 to $5,000 to $8,000 repair. Did we do that customer justice? No, we didn't. So in that aspect, that's where average repair order is important, is because that means we're looking the car over and we're given a good report card for the car.
I'm not supposed to talk a whole lot on these things, and so I'm not supposed to be a consultant here, but I struggle very, very difficult. I believe it is our job to look the car over. That's why the customer's there. And if we don't do a good job looking the car over and finding those things that should be taken care of, then we're not doing our job correctly. Just as a professional, I think that's my job. So just a brief comment from me. Now, I'm going to make that shift that I said I was going to make. Can you give me 2 to 3 reasons why you feel that you've been able to achieve the level of success, profitability, et cetera, that you have? Let's start with Tom. Tom, give me 2 to 3 reasons why you think you've been able to overcome your obstacles or achieve the level of success you have.
Yeah, so, gosh, that's a tough one. I would probably honestly say the number one reason why I have gained, especially recent success, is the ability I've had to assemble the team. Not only just assemble the team that I have, but to actually empower them to do what they do. Almost every day I'm impressed by somebody on my team that has gone above and beyond without me even having to go and ask them to do something. So like for me, I'm very blessed. I've got 5 A-techs in my shop, and I don't just have 5 A-techs. I've got 5 good, humble, honest A-techs in my shop that stay more than 100% productive without me interfering in any way possible. And then in my office, I've got Lisa that's been plugging along with me for 7 years, that catches problems before I even see them, and just handles things without me asking. And then my 2 service advisors down there taking care of my customers better than I ever could, honestly. I was a service advisor for quite a while, and they both do a far better job than I ever could. So honestly, just my ability to assemble that team and then get the hell out of their way, honestly, and let them do their thing is why my shop is successful. I really don't have to do much from day to day. So
how did you empower them? I mean, most shop owners are looking over everyone's shoulder trying to do all the stuff. How did you empower your team?
It's pretty easy. Very clear goals, extremely clear goals. They know everybody knows exactly what they have to do to get by, and they also know exactly what they have to do personally so that our team reaches the goals we've set. And you set the goal and set the parameters, and let everybody go. Stay the hell out of their way. You know?
Do you meet with your staff regularly?
Front office, we meet, all the time, because we're up there, together. I do a lot of toolbox talks here and there out at the techs, but for the most part, we meet once a month as kind of a whole team. Other than that, advisors and technicians have several toolbox meetings throughout the day, and us in the office have several talks as things come up. But as a whole, a week or a monthly meeting, here's what the goal is. This is what the game plan is. Everybody on board? Yeah, let's go do it. We don't really have to get too in depth. Everybody's been winning with me long enough now. The meetings are shorter and shorter every time, because it's just easy to get everybody on board. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Brian Sump, the same question. What 2 or 3 things do you think has allowed you to be successful or helped you be successful?
First and foremost, I agree with Tom 100%. Is the people that you have in your organization, because a one-man operation shop that's a tough business to run. Okay. And it's hard to make it profitable. So you have to have excellent people that fit your culture and that are highly talented or have the ability to become skilled and talented. So that's first and foremost. The second thing would be having resources of other people around you to give you advice and counsel. Although I've spent the last few years probably giving back more to the industry and helping others, I still pick up the phone and I'll call up here or email somebody and say, I need your thoughts on this. So we're constantly what I call networking up and networking down. You've got to go seek counsel and you got to give counsel, and that sharpens you on both ends. And the last thing I think that I would say is that we've done things that make sense to us. It's one thing if somebody tells you this is the way you should do it and you're a yes man and you go do it, and you probably have success. But we've always believed that if that's right for us, we're going to do it. If not, we're going to tweak it, make it work. And so part of that is making sure that everybody on our team understands why we're doing something. And then there's clarity, and then getting everybody synergistic and doing it together. So I'll probably say that those are the three things.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jesko.
Probably for me, number one thing was hiring a good consultant and getting the training I need to become the person I needed to be. With that, I was able to assemble a team that knows that I have their best interest at heart. And I can also say that they have my best interest at heart. So they work hard to make me better because they know that I'm working hard to make them better. And then having weekly meetings with all of them, I spend my time a lot of times with the techs. We'll talk about a problem car, but I'll explain to them what the numbers are, why we're trying to meet these numbers, and why we do what we do, so that they can understand that they have a purpose in what they do out there. So many times the guys in the shop feel like they're just a workhorse and they're just being beat to do more work, and they don't understand why. Explain the numbers to them. Explain to them how they're helping the company grow, which is helping them grow. Work with your front staff so that they understand that these guys out there in the trenches, they're people. Treat them like people. They're not just, here's another car, here's another car, here's another car. And so I've been blessed. I've assembled a great team that really cares about me. And then I'm just determined. I'm determined to be successful, and I'm determined to plug forward. I'm determined to do whatever I need to do. But having the peers out there that I can turn to, going to the classes, having access to great consulting, great coaching, it's a win-win.
Okay. Thank you. We got to get towards the end. We got a few more minutes. We're going to ask you one last question. We'll go around and get answers from you. There are guys out there that are struggling today for whatever reason. They're not making the money they need to. They're working very hard. They're thinking, at the end of the year, I've worked so hard. There's not enough there. Do I want to do this? Is it possible to be successful? What advice would you give that guy or gal that's listening that needs, to be successful? What advice would you give them? Let's start with Brian Sump.
Yeah, you got to get help. Period. There's some great industry publications. There's some great conferences. There's some excellent consultants. There's groups, peer groups. There's a lot of different ways to get help. And I think it's getting off your pity party box and, having the courage to be able to reach out and tell somebody that you're not where you want to be and that you need help. So you got to do it some way.
Okay, thank you. Brian Jesco.
At first, you got to accept that it's okay to say you're not doing well. Sometimes shops that aren't doing well tend to keep that to themselves until the day that they're pulling the plug. Admit that you're struggling. Get around a group. Find you a group. Classes are out there. You've got to take them. Make the time. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Step up and go to the training. Find you a consultant to help you. This is a wonderful industry to be in. And every day that I wake up and get to come here, I'm excited because the opportunities we have are amazing. The customers we see walk in the door are amazing. The problems that we run into with cars, sometimes they're hard, but it's exciting to get to solve problems. I could not imagine why anybody would not want to work their hardest to try to make this successful. Seek help.
Okay. Tom.
Yeah, I very much agree with both Brian's there. there's two parts to it. One, you've got to seek the help, and two, you've got to open up your mind, check your pride, and accept the help. I know I've recently reached out to a lot of shop owners around here in Utah because, honestly, in the past few years, I've had so many people reach out to me and that have helped my life be so much better and easier that I'm trying to pay it forward. I'll reach out to these other shop owners that are struggling a little bit, but giving them the advice is very easy. Getting them to actually follow the advice is why I am not a coach. I don't. That's the tough part. Even for me, as I first started receiving coaching, it was tough. There was many days that my sensitive feelings got hurt. It's tough to work as hard as we work and not succeed, and have somebody come in and tell us that we've been working so hard but doing it wrong. So seek the help, but accept the help. It's the best advice I could give.
Okay. Just if you have one last comment, we got about 3 minutes. We'll start with Brian Jesko. What's your last comment for the group that we got here?
Oh, boy, that's hard. I'm honored to be in such an exciting industry. I'm honored to get to be with a panel like these guys here, Brian and Tom. I look up to you. I've read the articles. But I say everybody just needs to keep plugging along. We have great opportunity here. Keep plugging along, seek help.
Okay. Mr. Sump?
I don't know. There's a lot more to add to that. You got to be looking for ways to improve. And if your passion wanes, then maybe it's time to get out or find different ways to get inspired. These guys made some great points today. And I think one thing I would say is make sure that you're involved in the progression of the industry, whether, through the associations, and through the expos and things that happen, because there's a lot more than just seeking a consultant to advance in the industry or improving your shop. We do need to lock arms together, and we need to be part of collective efforts, whether it's improving the technician shortage or increasing in training or watching how the industry is going to evolve and making sure that we have a voice. And you've got to do that through associations and, supporting our lobbying organizations and stuff like that as well.
Thank you. And Tom?
Yeah, so to build on that, our industry as a whole, it's obviously my favorite group of people. We're good people. We work hard. And a lot of thanks to you, Cecil. I feel, especially in my area, I feel things progressing. I feel like that our industry is finally stepping up and realizing that we've done a poor job of communicating to people just how awesome we are, But I feel like that's changing. I feel like things are moving in the right direction, and it's exciting. So keep doing what you're doing. Thanks, Cecil. Thanks, Brian. Let's keep doing it.
All right. I'd like to thank all three of you for being here. I greatly appreciate all three of you and your help today on the webinar, podcast, webcast, Facebook cast, whatever we call it today. So thank you, Tom, and thank you, Brian, and thank you, Brian. I value your friendship. I value your efforts and your energies on your own behalf and on the industry's behalf. If you are interested in further communication, we do now have a Facebook forum. You can go to the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence or ifrabe.com on Facebook. And it is for business owners and people that are in the business that want to move the business forward. We're careful about our language on there. We are not controversial, and it's not about fixing cars. It's about business. So if you're interested in that, please look for that. And once again, thanks, guys, and have a great day.
You too, Cecil. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.